Welcome to the campfire of this planet called Terra. The reason why we are here is to unify our forces and to bring the best out of the situation. Those people who are happy for the things that are happening are lucky, and they will have a great time afterwards. Those at the same time who feel confused and don't know what's happening, feel a bit anxiety or tension, I would recommend that you listen now. There are a few things which would be useful to discuss. Till now, our world, our matrix, let's say it like that, was focusing on the outer things. How big is our car? How big is our house? Is it bigger than the neighbor's house? And so on. So we were focusing outside. But this was a distraction. This was distracting us from being able to look inside. Because the richness, what's really there, what's really happening, is inside. Why? Because ultimately, it's not the car or the house that gets happy, but it's our mind. It's our own perception, the way we see things, and the way we experience them. Therefore, we will unify our mental field, let's say. We will do something together in order to bring our common future to a better state. So how do we do that? What we do here is to learn to look inside instead of trying to grasp things outside for our happiness. Because ultimately, our mind, which is, let's say, inside us, gets happy. So how do we do that? I would like to ask you to listen carefully and try these mental practices, as going to be shown here. So what are these mental practices and why do we practice them? First of all, we practice it for our own well-being, happiness, and our own awareness about the situation we face, inside or outside. At the same time, we practice it not only for ourselves, but for the common field that we are living, for the future of this society on planet Terra. So, what are these practices and how do we do them? These are simply things we think of. We don't need any tools, we don't need to imagine anything. We will just work with our own inner perception, thoughts, feelings, and we will be examining how our mind works. There will be 4 practices we're going to discuss today, and it's really recommended that we do this as much as we can together, especially now that we have time to do that. This will place a great stamp, a great ground for our future and for our future development innerly and also outwardly. So the first thing is the first practice, what we call 3DS, is about 3-dimensional space. What do we mean by that? It means that it's very simple to imagine that we all know what an atom means, right? So we are made out of atoms, molecules, and these molecules form our bodies, etc., and the outer world and everything. So these atoms have a nucleus, it's called. It's a little, let's say, seed inside the atom that consists of protons and neutrons. And there's another thing that adds up an atom. It's called an electron. And this electron, when we consider the nucleus as the size of a house, a 4-story building, then this electron has the size of a basketball. And this basketball circumambulates around the nucleus. But if the nucleus is a 4-story building, then this basketball-sized electron is about 1.5 miles from it. It's 2 kilometers. So in a 2-kilometer radius, it circumambulates it. So there is more space between the electron and the nucleus than matter. And this refers on everything that appears in our world. The wood, the metal, our bodies, and whatever we can choose, any matter that's made out of atoms and molecules has this same space-like nature. There's more space within the atom than matter itself. So in this first practice in the 3DS, we're focusing on this space between the electron and the nucleus. And this space does not stop at the corner of the atom, let's say. It penetrates everything. It interconnects everything. And this space interconnects us. It connects us. It's interpenetrating everything and everywhere. So this is what we are focusing on in the 3DS practice. We don't need to do anything special. We can sit any way we like. We just think about the space that penetrates everything in this 3D conceptual world we are facing. So let's think about it for a second. Space that penetrates everything, right? That's the first thing. We can do this while walking, talking, getting to the washroom, washing our clothes, or doing anything. We can just remember space, that everything is penetrated by space. This is the first practice. We can do it in the morning, in the evening, whenever we want, for as long as we want, for even a second, or for 10 minutes, or 2 hours, whatever we wish. So this is 3DS, remembering space. Why is it good for us? Because it gives us the relaxed mindset that the material world, as we consider it to be, is not that so hard and stiff. That whatever happens outside in the world, this turbulence of matter does not really matter so much. It's not that hard, it's not that stiff, it's more space-like. So it loosens our perception of reality. So the world becomes lighter, easier. We can move easier, consider what we hear easier. We can digest words easier. Let's say somebody's shining with us. All right, that's just space, vibration in space and so on. So we can relax our minds. That's why the 3DS is good. The second practice at the same time is called 3DO. And this not only focuses on space, but it actually works with our habitual consciousness as well. And why do we do that? Because what we wish to achieve is to freeze our habitual mindset, which was penetrated by the matrix, let's say it like that, our habits, which implanted in our brains. So neural pathways, synapses of neurons, the chains how we thought and the habits what we planted as a thought pattern in our brains, we wish to, let's say, reboot it. So what we need to do is to restart the computer. And it's not easy to get the switch on us somewhere to just push it and restart our brain. But the way we do it is that we create a blue screen. You know Windows, right? The blue screen of Windows when everything crashes and everything freezes. That's what we are looking for. What we do here is that we take two thoughts of opposite and we try to digest them and think about them at the same time so that it stretches our habitual consciousness to the, let's say, unknown till our habitual consciousness freezes and bam, like clouds open before the sun shines through. And then at that moment, we get a feeling of the space-like nature of our own minds. And why is this good for us? It's good because it makes the habit we started to build up with the 3D as practice more instant, more spontaneous. We don't have to focus too much afterwards on space because it sometimes bumps up by itself. It becomes more spontaneous to just recognize what's behind the thoughts and the chain of feelings and so on. Because, and that's a key point here, we have to distinguish that we have a habitual consciousness connected to our brains, which is built up during this life since we're born. Then we got cultural impressions and work impressions, and then the educational impressions, and then the matrix itself put inside our brain different habits and so on. But the good news is that that's not all. We also have a so-called mind. Consciousness is just like the moving pictures within a movie screen that shines by itself. So no matter what type or what kind of pictures we are having inside the movie screen, it won't really matter for us from now on. Because what really matters and what we are going for is to recognize the shininess of the movie screen, the shininess, the radiant, space-like, clear light of our own mind that's behind our habitual consciousness. It was there timelessly. It was there always. So our mind is timeless, limitlessly space-like, and clear light-like. Now let's stay with the 3DO. This is the way we do it. We think about space itself, that the world, the 3D world, consists of space, because that's what makes the things appear, and there are appearances. So things appear in pure space, in the vacuum, constantly photons, light particles bubble up. So space itself is not fully void. It has always things bubble up in it. It manifests things. For example, we may remember the double-slit experiment of the quantum physics. It's very simple. It just shows that whenever a professor who is doing the experiment takes a look at what's happening there, then the light particles, which were beamed as a laser, behave not as a light wave, but they start to behave as matter, as electrons. You remember we discussed it concerning the atom, that there is a nucleus and an electron. An electron is the one that we call energy. And for example, in the wires in the wall, electrons move, let's say, and this is what we call electricity. So power, electricity, energy is created by conscious awareness. So when our brain focuses on some light particles, they become like matter. That's a great thing, because our mind can manifest immeasurable number of universes, according to quantum physics. Because first, the light appears from space, then consciousness condenses it to become a matter, and then they become different particles and molecules, and then they end up the world. So this means that we constantly create our own worlds, literally. This is what quantum physics says. It's not that we are living in a 3D world that we don't have anything to do with and we are trying to swim in it and so on. It's not like that. We ourselves create, with our consciousness and focus, the type of worlds what we experience with our own habitual consciousness. So we try to break this habitual consciousness for a moment to be able to look through to freedom. because to see the nature of mind is total freedom. So what we think about are two things. Is reality space or appearance? Of course, we know the answer if we want to, but this question has the aim to crack our mindset. So we repeat it internally and try to feel through space and appearance and try to catch what's reality. Well, we know space is appearance it's in itself, because it constantly manifests things. And things, at the same time, have always had a space nature. They are full with space. So space and appearance are just different sides of the same coin. And what matters is that we have an awareness which can check this coin. And in this question, the answer does not matter. The coin doesn't matter in this question, because what we aim for is to recognize that there is something which experiences this coin. So it's not about to find out really, yes, reality is about space, or reality is about appearance, meaning matter and stuff. So it's not about nihilism or materialism. It's about recognizing, by the tool of focusing on these, that there is something that's aware. And when consciousness freezes between two thoughts, we get a cut-through suddenly. These cut-throughs, let's say, start small, bit by bit, but eventually it will become more spontaneous and deeper and so on. So let's try that. Innerly, we think about, is reality space or appearance? And we check if there is an awareness which experiences it. So we just sit comfortably and do whatever we want, sit back or in any position, and just think about, is reality space or appearance? Just try it for a moment. Try it now. Space or appearance? Space or appearance? Space or appearance? Yeah, there's a practice, and we do this also for a few minutes or a longer period as we wish to. The benefit will be that we'll become more spontaneous and get more experience about our nature of mind. So then what is left? There are two more mental practices left. In order to step to the next stage, to the practice called 4DS, we need to understand one thing. So there's a 3D object, right? It's a match. But if we take it apart, we have a two-dimensional paper, right? It's a two-dimensional paper, right? We can have any amounts of two-dimensional papers in our three-dimensional world. We can create two-dimensional local words, as it's called in quantum physics, in any amounts. We just take a letterhead paper, draw something on it, and that's a two-dimensional context, a 2D world. So from 3D, we manifest any amount of 2D worlds. In the same way, like we have created a two-dimensional, let's say, object or two-dimensional word from a 3D object, the same way, the four-dimensional awareness of our own mind emanates three-dimensional worlds. The reason why quantum physics says we emanate constantly our own universes is that we have the ability to do so. And this ability is our own 4D space-time-like mind, the nature of our mind, which is 4D-like. But because it emanates three-dimensional words in any amounts it wants, and all these three-dimensional worlds move constantly. This movement we call time. So, because it creates spaces, three-dimensional spaces, in which there is movement, so time applies, it creates as many space and time contacts as much as it wants. Therefore, this four-dimensional awareness of mind is called four-dimensional space-time. It's very easy to remember. But we don't have to repeat that too much. We just remember it's 4D-like. So it creates spontaneously the 3D worlds. To be able to get used to recognizing how it is being done, how four-dimensional awareness emanates things or lets things emanate, because four-dimensional space is continuously pregnant, we may say. So things, appearances bubble up from it, 3D worlds bubble up from it. So to get used to how it is being done or how it happens by itself, we do this 4DS practice. And what does it consist of? We take a look at the three-dimensional objects and our thoughts about them and check whether there is any lasting essence in them. Is there anything lasting? Is there anything solid in them? What's their essence that stays there forever, let's say, because that's something? If something appears, changes, and then dissolves, it's not lasting. Our bodies are not lasting, but our minds are. This means that we can have several lives. When our body dissolves, our 4D mind is still there. Then it attaches to a 3D world when a man and a woman are mating, and that's the way love goes. And suddenly we arrive to a place which is quite clean and nice, and we are shouting, and we are born. And this whole thing starts again, based on our habitual tendencies, what we built up with our brains and habitual consciousness. So that's why we work with 3DS and 3DO to break this and to restructure it and to cleanse it, let's say like that. To have this mental tendency, what we carry from one life to another, bring us to a better place. Okay, but coming back to the 4DS, what we do here is checking the 3D appearance, inside and outside. Whatever perception we have about things, colors, and any kind of perceptual objects, let's say, taste, touch, sounds, colors, and smell. So whatever we experience, we can analyze and call to mind and think about or look into its nature for a moment. Does it have any lasting essence, or it's also space-like, like 4D space-time? And at the same time, what we do is to check our thoughts. Does the thought that I have to go to buy milk have any lasting essence? Or it just appeared? It was there for a few moments, and then it disappeared. So when we start to do this and work with outer and inner impressions and feelings, does this jealousy I have now, is it real? Where is it? What size does it have? What color does it have? What taste does it have? And so on. There is no lasting sense in feelings. Pride. I'm the most successful, or I'm the smartest of all. Or anger, when people's face gets really red and they look funny when they are angry because they want to have their right and so on. Or greed. when we really want to grasp something and we cannot let it go and so on. Attachment. So these are just mere illusions in the 4D space of our minds. So when we examine them, inner impressions, whatever bubbles up, other things what we experience, then after a while we recognize that there is an awareness that examines them, samples them, and checks them whether they have a lasting essence or not. Sometimes this awareness becomes more penetrating than the objects, let's say the mental objects we are checking. Because what matters is the 4D space-time-like mind, which is aware and checks the pictures which appear inside the movie screen. But it's not the pictures that matter, but the movie screen itself. So sometimes we get the awareness, wow, what's happening? Where is this awareness which is checking whether these 3D impressions, inner, outer, have lasting essence or not? And this is what matters. To recognize that there is no essence of any kind in the 3D appearance. No matter it's a thought, it's a feeling, it's an outer object, or whatever perception, these are mere holographic illusions of our own minds. Our 4D mind plays out the pictures as 3D illusions for us. So then, what becomes more important is the 4D awareness. So we try to hold this 4D awareness when it's there, but not too much, because holding is also an intention, which is a 3-dimensional movement. So we try to avoid this kind of action or intention to hold something. Just let it go when it happens. Whether it's there, it's good. Whether it's not, it's okay. We just do this practice. So let's do it together for a tiny bit. Let's think about a pink elephant. Does this thought of the pink elephant have any lasting essence? Or it just appears, plays around, and disappears? Okay, let's take another thing. Let's take feeling. Let's take greed. What is it like? Does it have any lasting essence? No, because it comes and goes. So is it real? No. How about the thought of an I? That I exist. We already know from 3DS and 3DO that the matter, what we consider to be real and realistic and graspable, is made out of energy. Energy threads add up to quarks. Quarks add up to protons and neutrons. Light particles, photons, transform to electrons. They form an atom, and then molecules, and then the 3-dimensional illusion what we experience. So then, how about the thought of an I? So if we are not our bodies, because it does not have any lasting essence, what are we? Is there anything what we may call ourselves? So how about the thought of an I? So an I. Okay, now where is it? Is it in the atoms? No, because they change all the time. They appear in space, they disappear in space, and that was it. So if we're not the bodies, then what are we? Are we the energies? No. The so-called soul? No. Because they appear in space as well, like energies. And these energetical tendencies move in space, let's say. Morphogenetic fields and common fields of consciousness, and we can call them whatever, but these are what we call energy vibrations, energy fields. But these energy fields emerge from space. So they are not lasting. They appear in a 3D context, and then it naturally involves change. So our 4D mind emanates 3D worlds, and in this 3D world, energy appears. Of course, the change refers on that as well. So it's not lasting. But what's lasting, what's really timelessly there, is the 4D space-time nature of our minds. So understanding that, wow, I don't exist really. It's just 4D awareness that emanates these holographic illusions, like energy fields and matter-like experiences and so on, is a reliving thing. Why? Because 4D space cannot be destroyed. 4D space is everlasting because it's out of the time context, out of the context of time. So we become fearless. We cannot be destroyed. Our real nature cannot be destroyed. That's the 4D awareness. And it's all-knowing because awareness can recognize anything, anywhere, in any 3D world. So the 4D space-time awareness can just check wherever in this 3D context and know instantly what's happening there. It's called intuition. So this is how we practice this 4DS practice. We just sit. We don't close our eyes. We don't need to. We don't need to do any kind of magic with our hands or legs. Just think about. Let things appear. We just watch them. And we just let them go. Or sometimes we take a look, take a sample. Does it have a real meaning? Does that have a real meaning? And slowly, we try to shift this to a more spontaneous setup where we don't have to check, but mind recognizes its clarity nature, we can call it, its appearance nature. The 4D space-time awareness is just aware, and whatever appears, its appearance nature, because it's also the part of 4D, because 4D interpenetrates 3D, it's not an outer context from 4D. It's its child, let's say. So it's just aware and just sees whatever appears. And we try to make it a spontaneous process. So this was 4DS. And what's left? It's 4DO, where we also let the intentionality of checking go. So we just relax our minds, let anything appear, keeping the 4D space-like awareness, and just see how the nature is transparent from 4D perspective. They don't have any lasting essence, and so on. And we keep in mind that this 4D space-time penetrates not only this Terra, but also all other planets and universes. So it's not a 3D universe in which we are thinking about and we would to become universal beings or whatever. We don't care about being universal rulers or whatever. It's not the nature of mind. It's still the play within the 4D space-time cinematic screen of our minds. It's just a movie, the 3D movie, whatever appears. So we don't really take that serious. We just see it as it comes. It's the nature of 4D that it emanates this kind of mind states and different worlds and different kinds of beings. Because imagine the universe is limitless. Trillions and trillions and trillions of universes exist in which trillions of galaxies and trillions of planets. So conscious life forms penetrates the whole appearance world. So let us not be surprised when we hear about or see or whatever a non-human form being. Why not? So in 4DO, what we do is that we just relax our minds and don't even think to not to think. and let the 4D space-time shine even more than the 3D pictures are, innerly or outwardly. If a thought appears, doesn't matter, or a feeling appears, doesn't matter, we just see its 4D space-like nature. No matter whatever happens outside, we see its 4D space-like nature, which is limitless, which appears in our 4D space-time-like mind's limitless space. Like that. We can do this for 2 minutes, 1 minute, 5 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, whatever we wish to. But this frees our mind. We become spontaneous, fearless, totally joyful, because in the limitlessness of space, when there are no blockages, energy can flow in a totally direct way. So we become really joyful, continuously. Still, at the same time, as joy is just a three-dimensional appearance, we don't take it too serious. We may enjoy it if we wish to, but we don't have to take it serious. Because what matters is a 4D space-time. So these 4 practices were given in order to elevate our own well-being, to get the feeling that the world is not a thing outside that we cannot have a grasp on, but the world, the experience of the world, happens inside our brains, between our 2 ears, let's say, or inside our hearts, wherever we imagine our minds to reside. Let us do this together as much as we can, and our conscious field of awareness is going to transform our common life, and our 3D world can anytime be experienced as being fully radiant, full of joy, and an amazing place. This was Josephson. Hope you enjoyed it and practice well.